All right, today we are cracking open the secret playbook of an absolute giant. We're going to decode the marketing genius that turned a simple can of energy drink into a global empire. This is all about the hacks behind Red Bull. Let's get right into it.
So let's just start with a really basic question. When you go and you buy a can of Red Bull, what are you really buying? I mean, is it just some sugar and caffeine in a slim can, or is it something else entirely? Because that question, that's the key to everything.
And, the business strategist Frank Costa, he just nails it with this quote. You're not buying a beverage, you're buying a symbol. You're buying the feeling of adrenaline, of victory, and this idea of invisible wings that are going to take you past whatever your limit is. See, Red Bull isn't really in the drink business at all. They're in the lifestyle business.
Okay, so how in the world do they pull this off? Well, let's break down the first play from their book, what we're calling the audience machine. Now, most of us, we look at their Formula One team and think, wow, what an enormous sponsorship. But here's the thing, that's not what it is at all. It's actually a ridiculously efficient media engine.
Okay, I want you to get ready for this number because it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Just from its Formula One team, Red Bull generates 126 billion media impressions every single year. And yes, that's billion with a B. That is not a typo.
And this is where the real genius kicks in. In the ad world, the big metric is CPM, right? Cost per mil, or what you pay to get in front of 1,000 eyeballs. For Red Bull, through their F1 team, that cost is, well, it's this. A number so small it almost looks like a mistake.
Let's actually put that number into perspective so you can see how wild it is. When you compare it to a traditional TV ad, Red Bull is paying 50 times less to get your attention. 50. They're not just participating in the advertising market. They have completely hacked it to get attention at a price that their competitors couldn't even dream of.
So that brings us to the next play in the book, and it builds right on top of that last one. We're calling this the Trojan horse product. Why? Because the can, the drink itself, it's not the real product, it's just the delivery mechanism.
Here's a fact that just blows my mind, and it'll probably blow yours too. Red Bull does not make Red Bull. Nope, they outsource 100% of the production to another company. Red Bull, as a corporation, really only does two things, and two things only: marketing and distribution. That's it.
And if you need proof, just look at this. It's absolutely staggering. 90% of their entire workforce is in marketing and events. Think about that for a second. That tells you who they are. They are a media and content company that just so happens to sell a drink to pay for it all. That can is the Trojan horse that gets the entire brand into your work.
And because of this structure, their whole strategy is completely different, right? You've got competitors like Coke who have to shout at everybody, the masses, trying to sell a product. Red Bull doesn't have to do that. They can just whisper to a very specific, very high-value niche. They're not trying to sell you a beverage. They're selling you a ticket to a lifestyle.
Which leads us perfectly into their third big secret, the culture hack. This is the magic of how they take a massive global sport like Formula One and make it feel personal, creating local passion that turns into local sales. I mean, think about the problem they have to solve. How do you get a fan in Japan and a fan in Brazil to feel the same intense connection to your product? Well, the answer is you don't. You create a global symbol instead. So when Max Verstappen wins, the entire nation of the Netherlands goes crazy. When Checo Perez is on the podium, all of Mexico celebrates with him. The drivers become national heroes, and suddenly that can of Red Bull becomes a symbol of national pride. The formal name for this strategy is branding proprietary, or proprietary branding, and it's so simple but so powerful. It just means that Red Bull isn't renting your attention. They're not just paying to slap a sticker on somebody else's race car. No way. They are the show. They own the whole thing: the team, the car, the driver, the victory. And when you do that, the results are just incredible. The newspaper headline isn't Verstappen wins, it's Red Bull wins. The brand literally becomes a synonym for victory. What looks like a marketing expense on the books actually becomes a valuable asset that wins championships. And of course, every single time they win, it reinforces their core message: Red Bull gives you wings. It's a perfect, self-fueling loop of genius. Okay, so now for the masterstroke. This is where all the pieces come together. This is where Red Bull goes beyond just brilliant marketing and into a whole other level, by first inventing its own demand and then hacking the financial system to pay for everything. You have to remember, before Red Bull came along, there wasn't really an energy drink market. They created it from scratch. They literally invented the moments you'd need one, right before a huge final exam,
right before that massive presentation at work, right before you hit the gym. They created the problem, and then they sold you the solution in a can.
So how do they afford that massive F1 machine we talked about? Well, this is just beautiful. It's a fiscal hack. Let's say the main company makes $40 billion in revenue. It then pays its own F1 team $2 billion and calls it a marketing expense. They can then deduct that huge expense from their profits, which saves them something like $500 million in taxes. And the F1 team itself? It's structured to just break even, so there are no profits over there to tax either. It's a completely legal and absolutely brilliant way to fund your marketing with money you would have otherwise paid in taxes.
So after all of this, what is the one big lesson we should take away? Frank Costa sums it up perfectly. Stop being a hostage to someone else's algorithm. Stop pouring money into Google and Facebook, renting attention. Become your own media. Build your own show, and people will come to watch.
Red Bull is the ultimate proof that you don't have to be the loudest brand if you're the most interesting one. So the real question here isn't about them, it's about you. Looking at this playbook, which of these incredible strategies can you take and adapt for whatever it is you're building? Now that's something worth thinking about.